Hey, GLP-1 plus size community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Hey everyone, before we dive in, I really want to share something personal with you. About, I want to say like 8 to 10 months ago, after losing 100 pounds on GLP-1s and keeping it off for a long time, I started regaining out of nowhere, and I was terrified. But I also started having hot flashes and bouts of crying and snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. unable to go back to sleep. It turns out I was in perimenopause. So I started hormone replacement therapy, which is also called HRT, through a telehealth called Winona that specializes in this. And it changed everything. And now I'm sleeping better. And my hot flashes are all but gone, thank God. And I feel like myself again. And it turns out that you can actually start perimenopause as early as 35. And well, I'm 46 and she's here. HRT has really come a long way and there's just no need to suffer anymore. So if you're like this and you're in the same boat, you can check out buywinona.com and you can use the link in our link tree to save some money.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. With results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster. Confidence higher. Price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast.
Hey, welcome. Howdy.
This is our special bonus episode today to let everybody know. We are going to be talking about all the crazy ass stuff. Sorry, Dad, I know it's God's day and all. In the news, okay, that's going on. All right, because there is so much like lawsuits and people trying to change policy and block access and all this different stuff. And I have brought on our special correspondents to be able to help us understand this. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But if you're new here, quick intros. We're trying to get these really tight, y'all. However, if you don't want to listen, this is your cue to fast forward. I'm Kim. I'm an obesity care advocate. I run this podcast with a good friend, Kat. And this is all about metabolic disease, GLP-1s. It is an education advocacy podcast. I have had obesity since I was a young girl. I started taking GLP-1s 3.5 years ago. I've been on all of them. And sorry, I just got a prompt from Gemini. It freaked me out. And I've lost 100 pounds on these medicines. I am not in a skinny body. I've never been skinny, but this changed my life when I turned off the food noise. And I just needed to know everything about it. And I needed to tell everyone. So that's what this show is about. That's a little bit about me. Kat, tell us a little bit about you.
I'm Kat. Kat Carter on TikTok, Kat Carter 7, if you want to follow me for my antics and my ignorance and my silliness. But in any case, I have obesity as well. I have grown up in a large body also, from the cradle to maybe not the grave, obviously, from cradle till now, right? But always struggled with it. Finally, discovered Mounjaro, tirzepatide a couple years ago, and I have finally lost 100 pounds. I am a notorious slow responder. I love fitness. I've always been into sports and fitness at 320 pounds, and right now at 219. Can get some noise. It's 101. But I've always been into fitness, and now it feels great. The slow responding worked out perfect. I think that's, So don't be sad if you're a slow responder.
Yeah, it's okay.
Don't
Slow
compare.
responder. Yeah. Like legitimately fast, like whatever it is, like, and like, I talk about this a lot and I swear to God, I'm going to shut up, but like like the journey to get there, sometimes your body happens and responds a lot faster than your brain is ready for. So we talk a lot about that here. So if you like that kind of stuff and you want to be able to be the best and healthiest you can be, that's what the show's for.
Yeah, just
We
come
love
back
you.
more.
Let's talk
Come back
about
more.
all the tea and invite in our special guest. Okay.
Yay.
We cover everything, Kat?
We sure did.
Look at us. 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Huzzah. Okay. Correspondent number 1. Hello, Sabina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Number 2. Yes, we're so glad to have you here. Hi, this is Maria. I would like for you guys to, this is what we always do with our guest. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you help people. So we can start with Sabrina. Just
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sabina. Like Sabrina, no R. I have obesity too, and I do content on GLP-1 access and choosing providers. And I also have a company, GLP Winner, who sponsors a podcast that helps people compare all of the telehealth options online and see transparent pricing, reviews, and sourcing that they use.
Huzzah. Love it. And what about you, Maria? Tell us all the things.
Hi, I'm Maria. I am also a person that has obesity. I've infamously been called sturdy and corn-fed most of my life until starting compounded tirzepatide and losing a bunch of weight and feeling better, controlling my PCOS. I am a GLP-1 advocate like Kim. I started on this journey and I just dove right in. I had to know everything. So much so that I work in this space now full-time doing marketing in the GLP-1 space, and advocacy and lawsuits and policy and research are my favorite things to talk about. So that's why I'm here today.
Yep.
Awesome.
This can be perfect for you. It's your favorite thing to talk about, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Huzzah! It's almost like we planned this. Well, I love it. There's so many things that are going on, I think, in the news, and that's something Plus Size wants to start bringing to our fam, especially our audio listeners who just don't always on social. Those of you who aren't, I would just like to say you're smarter than all of us. That's all. Okay, so we have a lot of cases and lots of stuff to go through. So what I'm going to do is just hand it over to our news correspondent guests for you guys to kind of walk through and tell us all the things. And then we'll talk about the tea in the middle.
Yeah. Feel free to jump in and ask questions if something's not clear. So I think first we want to talk about the general strategy of what's happening. Okay. So broad picture, as you know, people get this medication a variety of ways. Some of it is from name brand or the big pharma version. Some of it is compounded. Some of it is gray. What we're primarily talking about today is threats to compounded access and threats to the companies that are producing compounded and through various means. Typically, that's been focused in 2 ways: lawsuits and new legislation, meaning new laws that are potentially going to be passed. And what we're seeing is that so far, this is very broad level, not in the details, a lot of the lawsuits have not necessarily been successful so far, right? But what's really interesting is now they're in a place where like, well, can we change the law? So there's a few different pieces of legislation we're going to be talking about today. And I would say the general strategy is there is federal legislation, but what we're expecting and what we're seeing is a lot of new laws coming in at the state by state level. Because why? Things move faster at the state level. A federal bill might take a year to get passed, if it gets passed. And on the state level, there's fewer variables, things move faster, and people pay less attention to the state level. So our fear, and I'm maybe speaking for all of us here, I don't know, is that things can sneak through, lawsuits, new laws that are then going to make compounded medication less accessible. I've primarily lost on compounded medication. I know a lot of people only have access to this medication because of compounded medication. So that's why we care, and that's why we're paying attention to it. Do you want to add anything, Maria?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is compounding pharmacies are regulated both federally and at the state level. So it really matters at both. So regulation at the federal level and the state level both have different effects on compounding, and both can be detrimental depending on the wording or how this moves forward. And that's why we care so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can jump right in, I think the first thing we want to talk about is federal laws. So there's a federal bill. It's House Resolution 6509. It is the Safe Drug Act. And one thing that I think you'll see is that broadly in healthcare, everything will be labeled as safety, no matter what it does. Why? Because it's easy, right? Yeah. When you look at the summary that the legislators who put this bill put forth, they basically said it was to shut down mass compounding. And it's sponsored by two representatives out of Indiana. And the reason why Indiana is an important state is because Eli Lilly is the biggest employer in Indiana. They're based out of Indiana, and they've donated money to the people who are sponsoring this bill.
And I'll jump in here.
Yeah,
Eli Lilly is arguably one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world currently, with their market cap just hitting $1 trillion with a T. That's pretty incredible.
Heavily influential. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk both spend a lot of money, several $1 million a year, on lobbying directly to Congress people. And so for us, the Safe Drug Act is not something that we're a fan of, simply because it's regulating compounding pharmacies. And even though if you read the words, it doesn't look that crazy, we think the federal bill is being used as something to point to at the state level and be like, look, this has movement at the federal level, therefore you should pass the state level bills. And the state bills are a lot more aggressive individually. So our perspective, like my perspective, is that the more noise we can make that we don't want this earlier, the less likely we're going to have to see a full-on war going in laws that are going to make compounding less accessible.
And I think it's good to say this up front. We are not anti-regulation. We are for regulation that is fair and accessible, but when that regulation seems to be motivated by competition and not truly safety, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And then I would also say too, just so you guys know, and I think this is important whenever we're talking about the news, we look at this from a different lens because we're all advocates in this space, right? So we're telling you what we've read and what we've seen, and then what our take is on it. You should always do your own research, always understand. I don't want to say entertainment purposes only, because I know this is entertaining, but it really is meant to give you an additional lens, additional piece of education for you to look further and make your own decisions. So don't think that this is just end all be all, but we are all kind of little experts in this space. And so we're just trying to give you our take on where we see things going. Okay. So let's go ahead and move forward from there.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add is that obviously politics is super heated right now. This is not a partisan issue. I hope that it doesn't become a partisan issue. But right now it's not. For us, it's about the access that people have to medication, and anything that changes compounding, we're going to keep a close eye on if we can find it, because we're really worried that people are going to lose access to their medication, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think what also is and it's just my take just from learning so much about gray market, many people are already feeling that's their only option and getting pushed there. And ultimately, even the people that I know, I would say most people would say it is a last resort, but and we've talked about that on the show. And if you guys don't know about that, I'll make sure that there's a link so you can go to that episode where we break down what gray market is. And it's basically research peptides, whether it be domestic or foreign, where people are getting it, mixing it yourself, no doctor oversight, things like that. Okay. So that's the gist of it. But obviously that piece of it, we don't want, we don't want people to have, that's what I fight for. I don't want anybody. I want you to pay $25 and get your medicine. That's just
agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, I do think there's a place for compound. I have always struggled personally with the high doses of these medicines, and the ability when I lost access for a while, when I went on compound and was able to take like a 10 one day and then a 5 a couple days later, that was incredibly helpful to me. It was fantastic. And it really did help manage side effects, but still give me the treatment that I needed. There's a place for it. And so we don't want to lose access to that. We want it, the 503A, 503B. We want that. We probably should at some point, for our friends that don't know who maybe are on brand, to understand 503A and 503B and maybe how they're different. If you guys are open to discussing that, just to get a little bit of like, I think a level for our audience that don't know.
Yeah. So first, let me jump in.
You say that part. Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know what compounding is or what a compounding pharmacy is, right? So most medication is manufactured and then distributed. So you think of like what you pick up from your normal retail pharmacy, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, whatever that is manufactured medication that then is like dispensed, almost like you would buy a bag of chips from the grocery store. Compounded medication is customized. It is different than the commercially available medication in some way. So a really classic example of what like compounding is you imagine a kid needs a medication and that kid can't swallow a pill. They might crush up a pill, put cherry syrup in it, and now suddenly somebody can take a medication they couldn't before. That's like the high level explanation of compounds. Now, in the GLP-1 space, compounded medication gained popularity while there was a shortage of the name brand medication, and then has continued through customization options. And for me personally, like I've had struggles taking the medication at the pharma level dosing schedule. So I had to get customized medication for that way, but also some people customize because of doses and whatnot. And do you want to explain 503A and 503B, Maria? Or I can tackle it if you want.
I was going to talk like historically compounding is very normal. Like before big pharma became big pharma, like hospitals were compounding every medication. And compounding pharmacies still work like quite extensively in the US for palliative care, hospice care, veterinary care, kids, autoimmunes, people with allergies. Like these are like regularly being used. The reason we talk about compounding pharmacies so much more in the news now is because GLP-1 compounding has really brought light into that space. But this space has been existent for hundreds or over 100 years. I won't say hundreds yet.
Well, 100 years ago, most medication was compounded. Like if you went to the corner pharmacy, they would custom make medication for you. And we've sort of now we're in a place where most medication is manufactured somewhere else. It's like in set pill amounts. And what you get at, your retail pharmacy is generally, very standardized. But obviously the standard doesn't work for everyone else. Maria brought up examples like veterinary medicine. There are medicines that cats and dogs need that humans take that maybe only comes in human pill sizes, but would not work for a, 15-pound cat or a 10-pound chihuahua or a horse. So compounding pharmacies work for veterinary medicine as well. Maria brought up a great example of palliative care. If you imagine a loved one you might have in your life where they can't swallow a pill anymore, and they maybe also don't have an IV or a medication doesn't come in an IV format,
you guys hearing that?
Yeah.
Was it you?
I don't think so.
It sounded like a mic swoosh.
Is it nothing's touching my mic. Okay.
Oh, maybe it was.
I can reset it because the sound was bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a palliative care environment, you could imagine if your loved one maybe can't swallow pills anymore, doesn't have an IV, or the medication doesn't come in an IV format, a compounding pharmacy can create, a medication that might be really helpful for comfort at end of life that you might be able to put under your tongue and have as a tincture. And otherwise they wouldn't be able to get that care and they would suffer more at end of life. So it is a absolute critical medical infrastructure, compounding pharmacies are. And to be frank, you don't really need to know this level of detail, but there's two types of compounding pharmacies. They're both regulated at the state level, 503A and 503B. 503A is generally a smaller format. They can do customization. 503B is compounding for potentially just individuals, but also for larger organizations like hospitals. Most hospitals use compounding pharmacies extensively, and if not all hospitals, because it helps them save money, it helps them optimize and helps them customize medication. So yeah, that's the summary of compounding pharmacies.
That's great.
Yeah, and I will add the 503Bs also get inspected by the FDA.
They do. Yeah.
So that is something that I think is really important when we talk about this. When we talk about manufacturing versus 503Bs, they're both getting inspections by the FDA.
Yeah. But the difference is, and I think people need to understand, is even though it's inspected by the FDA and there's oversight, they're not FDA approved. So that's where that stamp and label come in because of the manufacturing piece, right? So that's just something to kind of, I think, understand in this. And then I also think that it's important, if you don't know a lot about compound pharmacies or you've been on brand, it's just not something you've had to worry about. Just understand that the reason that GLP-1s got in this space originally was mostly because there was a mass shortage. So it wasn't necessarily, I think, always intended for this to continue on like it is, but because of the issues with accessibility and affordability, right, that has opened up this space for compound, and it has become essential for many people that struggle with obesity because it's the only thing that they can afford. And as we all talk about here, it is a vicious chronic disease that is progressive and very important that it's treated. It's not a weight loss med. That's not what we talk about here. So just a little background there. I'll shut up now. Let's go. What you want to talk about next? Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I'll add, like, compounded medication is not FDA approved. It's considered different. It's like basically a different treatment than name brand medication, but also FDA approval is really complex, right? So if you take an FDA approved medication and you add a vitamin to it, it's no longer the FDA approved medication. You take an FDA approved medication, you change the dosing, it's no longer an FDA approved medication, right? So just to clarify, like, the FDA has not determined that compounded medication is safe or effective like it might do for name brand medication. And that's essentially, that's a true fact. And, you know, that's how, you know, drugs need to be marketed in that sentiment. Do you want to talk about bills, or do you want to add anything?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to add FDA is like a marketing label. Like, think about that, like how it's marketed. Like, vitamins and minerals can never be FDA approved because they're just a different type of substance. So hopefully that can, like, give you some, like, scope of what that means, basically.
Yeah. Is this a good time to talk about the Indiana bill, and then we can do the Florida one after?
Yeah, Indiana might be a great place. So this topic about FDA approval and adding things was, like, so apparent in the Indiana Senate bill that came in. So there was a bill introduced very quickly in the last 2 weeks to Indiana Senate on compounding specifically. And it was generalized compounding. So everything we talked about, palliative care, veterinary care, GLP-1s, like all of it in the state of Indiana, because these pharmacies are also regulated by state boards of pharmacy. So this bill shows up last Friday, and it's set to be heard on Monday. So everybody's scrambling to read the bill, understand the bill, and get to Indiana so we can testify, listen, see what's going on, because this bill was really limiting compounding. It was saying that you can't use anything that's not FDA approved, but nothing that a compounding pharmacy makes would be FDA approved, because what we just talked about, it's only FDA approved alone. So the second you add anything to it, it's not FDA approved. And the only way you can access these FDA approved, what we call APIs, or active pharmaceutical ingredients. So, like, the main ingredient in this is from the direct manufacturer. This is what this rules were saying in this bill. And why would a competitor sell the active ingredient to its other competitor? It would either be really expensive or they wouldn't do it. So it's kind of really limiting access. Like, it's creating this, like, funnel in these situations where this just wouldn't work. And I was there at the hearing in Indiana last Wednesday. And it was kind of wild. 19 people testified. They had to cut the testimony short because there wasn't enough time. The senators were, like, scheduled for another meeting. So, like, jam-packed into this little tiny, I don't know, it wasn't a closet technically, but it was tiny. And there were lots of people listening with big opinions. There were pharmacists, there were compounding pharmacists, Big Pharma was there. Patients were there talking about how compounding has, like, really changed their lives. And, like, people with cancer who were like, we need this to help us to, like, live a good quality of life. If you take this away, like, my life will suck. Basically, that's very abbreviated, but it was a lot to take in. They pulled the bill back. They said they're going to hold it for at least another week, maybe 2 weeks, to try to rewrite it, because it was really about cutting off compounding in Indiana, in Eli Lilly's backyard. This is my fun fact for the hearing. Eli Lilly is 1.5 miles away from the Indiana State Courthouse, their main administrative headquarters. So it was right there. And I'm glad it got pulled back. It's not officially off the table yet, but that's, like, my high level overview, I think, of it all. Did I get it all, Sabina?
Yeah. I mean, so it's Indiana State Bill 282. If you live in Indiana and you want to track the bill. I think from a high level, it would, this is obviously a super simplification. It would make it very difficult to do any compounding, any type of compounding, not just GLP-1 related compounding. That includes, the examples we gave of like palliative care and otherwise. And it feels very aggressive. It's clearly in Eli Lilly's home state. I think if there's any state bill that could get through, it honestly could be this one, because it's their home state. They donate to all the politicians. And if you live in Indiana, you get compounded GLP-1 medication, this could impact you. If you don't want to see this go through, you can obviously contact your state representatives and senators. So.
Yeah. And Kim, you like the tea. So this is where I would love to spill some tea on like what I heard at this lawsuit, right? Not lawsuit, this hearing. So there is a person who brings the Senate bill to the committee, right? There's like a person who's the sponsor of the bill, right? This person took money from Eli Lilly. You can see it on Transparency USA. They've taken money. Pretty much every politician in Indiana has taken money at some point from Lilly. I will say that as like a caveat. So I kind of went in here and I'm like, well, this guy is just going to love Eli Lilly. They're going to love Big Pharma because it's funding them, even so much so that one of the first testimonies said they have 70,000 jobs in Indiana and the average salary is $148,000 and they bring $99 billion to the economy of Indiana. Why would we regulate them? Let them get big and bring us money and let's squash their competition so they keep stimulating our economy, was that. But the sponsor of this bill, what I get back to, he raised so many good questions. He had 3 quotes that I was just shocked that somebody who was leading this charge would ask. He asked, I'm worried we're committed. Let me say that again. I'm worried we're creating a monopoly, which is shocking from the person sponsoring this bill sitting at the front of the room. So that perspective was really positive for me to hear that he is hearing what we're saying and seeing this whole thing kind of unraveling. So that was a big part of it. He just asked a lot of really, really good questions about like, well, when have you guys been inspected? What does this mean? What brought this bill? Like, why now? Tell me why now? Like, what has happened? Were there big adverse reactions? What's happening? Not a single person could answer that other than it's protecting profits. So it was a really positive time to hear him like listen. So we'll see what happens next if he truly listened and changed some of the wording inside of it. But that was my tea, is like he really did listen.
Quick pause here. I've had moments on my GLP-1 journey where insurance changes or rising costs force me to look for a new provider. And honestly, that process can feel very overwhelming. But that's why the Plus Sides podcast is partnered with GLP Winner to give our subscribers a resource to help them make that decision easier. GLP Winner is a comparison platform that lets you explore telehealth providers in all 50 states, whether you're looking for brand name medications or compounded options. You can see pricing up front, read reviews, and get a clear picture of which provider might align best with your needs. Check it out today at glpwinner.com/plus-sides. That's glpwinner.com/plus-sides. Don't forget the Z. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m., and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you have this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need.
"20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise. That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
Are we concerned that, like, and I think I remember you sort of pointing to it in the beginning, Sabina, where it's like, if we think these state things come through, that we could possibly say we want to extend that from a federal level, like to change the federal law.
So success at the federal level or success at the state level or just like movement and momentum will feed off of each other to making people think, oh, this is a bigger issue. And I know you asked in our chat, which maybe I shouldn't acknowledge on this, you asked if there's any stats for how many people are on compounded GLP-1s. We don't have hard numbers. Novo Nordisk actually just estimated that it was 1.5 million people. There's about 12 million people estimated to be on GLP-1s right now in the United States. And I think it could be even higher than 1.5 million, but we don't have stats.
What do we think about, I remember you telling me there was like a Reuters article that said something about how many they thought were on gray market.
Honestly, I think gray market is just as big or potentially bigger than the compounded market for what
and as there's less access for compound, then therefore
more people will go gray, right? And I think in an ideal world, we would all have an amazing doctor who listened to us, who spent like an hour a week with us. But the reality is, like, that's not affordable. Doctors don't have time. We're all trying to do the best thing that we can for our health in a reasonable, safe, affordable way, right? And if going a route where you have a prescription and you have an interaction with the doctor becomes unaffordable, people go to gray market, which is, I think it's not ideal to have no doctor in the loop, nobody monitoring your health. And that's why funding is so important.
I want to throw out there too, like the saying about like going to gray market, like that's proven in research. There are multiple research like methods and trials that have proved that when people lose access of a medication, doesn't even matter if it's GLP-1, they will try to find it because it's life-changing. Some people need this to live. Insulin's a great example of this. People need it and they will find it in ways that might not be the safest because they cannot pay the thousands and thousands of dollars a month to get it through other channels.
Agreed. They have to pay the rent. They got to, get groceries versus insulin. I had a question on the tip of my tongue. Most favored nation. I felt like I thought of this while we were discussing. Potentially that could help with the costs, right? So
Trump's most favored nation initiative, you'll call it, that's helping to get Medicare and Medicaid coverage for these medications. But I will say, it seems like Medicare is best case going to happen in the summer. Medicaid for a lot of states, it's a state by state basis, whether or not they will adopt the Medicaid prices. So it may not, we don't know if it will be available in every state. And that likely won't happen until later this year or next year. So the short term, there's no change in availability, right? Yep. But also most people in the US, Medicare is just 65 plus. Medicaid is, certain populations of people that have to qualify. I know the hope is if that's being covered, that then normal private commercial insurance that most people have will then potentially start to cover it. But I think we're a long way away from that becoming more accessible. And the Medicare and Medicaid stuff, it's currently being done kind of through an experimental pathway. So if we want to see it stay there long term, it either needs to prove that it's saving money by having people on these medications, or it needs to be codified into law.
Yeah.
Sometime in the next year.
I've heard also that we all need to call our state representatives to tell them all to opt in. This program to opt into it to make sure.
And we do include a link in that so you can find your state representative in the show notes. And we'll also have links to all of these different like lawsuits and things like that, just so that you can dig deeper, because we want to make sure that you're informed, right? This is just additional layer. I think something to also note about like when we started this, like the podcast and a lot of us, getting in this space and advocating, because again, like this is not weight loss meds. These are life-changing medications for serious disease, right? When we started this, one of the needles we were trying to move, because we knew we wanted to make things change, we weren't sure, was being able to get these on Medicare. And that is because when we would talk with the doctors, they would say in our country, Medicare sets the standard for care, right? So what happens is if Medicare covers it, then it usually trickles down and becomes more standard for these like commercial insurance companies. But what I've seen, I'm curious what you guys think about this, is that we've been kind of trying to move that needle through the system, but in the middle of that, we sort of have been breaking the system. right? Because we've had this ability to go around the pharmacy benefits managers, which are a lot of the holdup for being able to get these things on formulary.
That's another episode, right?
That's all that piece of it, right, is important, because that was the needle we were trying to move. Because that's one thing that happened, like when we had Zach on the show, right, is he was saying that that's how it worked with weight loss surgery. Still, they fucking call it that. Sorry, Dad, I know it's Sunday. But they still call it that, right? So, but that's what happened, is it got covered on Medicare and then trickled down. But that could take years. Like, we don't know how fast that will work. So in the meantime, we need access. Like, this is all very, very important, that we need to make sure that it exists, because we do not want people, my great people, please know that I love you and I want you here. I don't want you to have to take this risk with your life. I don't want it. And that's all this is. It's not that you're not welcome. It's not that we don't understand. It's that we get it. We know how serious this is. And I personally, I understand. Like, I feel like I couldn't live without it either. Right. So everybody feels that way. So just don't think that you're not welcome. We're really just talking about like how this could possibly change the system and how this could change access. And that's what we're trying to cover here. Okay.
Yeah. So what's really interesting that you kind of touched on, Kim, is that yes, the hope is that if Medicare and Medicaid covers this, that then commercial insurance will trickle down and cover it. But we're also seeing a different trend than we saw when bariatric surgery got covered, which is that the Medicare and Medicaid prices are much lower because they've been negotiated to be lower. The commercial insurance prices are still at the retail price. So unless that changes, which we're not sure it will, it seems like what's happening is this trend of pharma companies going direct to consumer, like Lilly Direct, like NovoCares, those price points. And commercial insurance and private employers insurance are actually pushing people to be paying out of pocket for it, because it's a less of a price burden than they will. And people have demonstrated that they will pay for this out of pocket, or go gray or go compound. And so it's almost beneficial for the payers, the employers and insurers who are doing private insurance, to push people to keep paying out of pocket rather than to take that price themselves. Because if it's $1,000 a month for them, but we could get it at like the $500 Lilly Direct price, or compounded, or cheaper, they would rather not pay for it. So it'll be really interesting to see if it will actually trickle down to private insurance coverage in a year or two, or if it's going to remain inaccessible because private insurance is still going to be paying the list price.
I can't help but wonder too, is one of the things that could possibly get them to lower the price is if compound goes lower. Like, if compound continues to lower their prices to where we're getting in the $200 range, are we going to see Lilly and Novo, offer that cash pay price closer to that? Because I think the issue right now is that compound is still very close price wise to especially the higher doses to, like, for example, the zepbound files, So but I'm not seeing a lot of movement in that area. And I can't help
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing gradual compound price reductions, and I'm expecting compound prices to go down. So that's why, because I do a lot of content on like comparing compounded providers and all of that. And like one thing I'll say that maybe I can say on the podcast that I can't say on TikTok is
everything here.
Yeah, I was like, I can say it on the podcast, I can't say it on TikTok. There's a lot of deceptive prices right now for compound. People will be like, $199 a month for tirzepatide. And actually that will require that you buy 12 months up front. And I'll tell you, don't buy 12 months up front, because the price is going to go down, right? You're going to screw yourself if you commit to like a 12-month price. So my take is don't do that right now. But
you heard that here.
Great. Don't do that. You heard that here. Yeah, I think we're all team. Don't do that shit.
Yeah. I also throw out there, like, we know that GLP-1 save healthcare dollars. There are multiple research trials out there already that folks on GLP-1s have a higher rate of healthiness. Basically, they're not dying. They don't have these chronic huge issues that put huge healthcare burdens onto our system. But we have estimated the cost of mass adoption of GLP-1s, and insurance companies can't take that upfront hit. They don't want to take the upfront burden of paying the $1,000 whatever Lilly pricing to then save the money later, because, in economics, money now is worth more than money later. So that is where we're at with this. We know it's proven to save healthcare dollars, but it's just such a mass upfront burden that these companies can't take billions and billions of dollars immediately onto their plates and diversify that. So they say. I don't run their books, but that's what they say. I had another thought and it's gone.
I also have
It'll come back.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah, I don't know where it went, but it just disappeared.
Let's get into more of the legislation we're seeing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Florida bill. So it's Florida Senate Bill 860 and House Bill 877. They're kind of companion bills. They're a little bit different, but from a high level, what these bills do is they target compounding in Florida and effectively shut it down in Florida. And why should you care? If you don't live in Florida, maybe you're like, why do I care? You should care because Florida has a ton of massive compounding pharmacies. So if you get your medication compounded, there's a high likelihood you're getting it from Florida. I think it could be as much as like 30% of compounding supply is coming from Florida. So if suddenly Florida can no longer make compounded medication, what does that mean? We're all going to have problems filling our prescriptions. So if you live in Florida, contact your reps. It's SB 860, HB 877. Currently in Florida, I've heard that it is a real fight. Like people are really fighting over it. And some of the ways that it tackles it, it's similar to the Indiana bill. It looks at the API, which is the active pharmaceutical ingredient. Think of it like the lemons that get turned into lemonade that is the medication that you take, right? It's the really important component. Part of how they're regulating the active pharmaceutical ingredient is, again, saying has to come from basically FDA approved places or FDA inspected at a schedule that doesn't actually make sense because most people who manufacture the active pharmaceutical ingredient are not in the US. They don't have control over when the FDA inspects them. But the FDA has actually already done a bunch of work. They put together a green list of people just for GLP-1 active ingredients where they said, hey, if you're making compounded GLP-1, here's a long list of people that we think are manufacturing this in a safe way. Use people from this list. The Florida bill and both the Indiana bill completely ignore the work that the FDA has done to try to make compounded GLP-1 safe and accessible. And they say that's not good enough. We don't like those active ingredient manufacturers.
Well, and even in the Indiana bill, like at the testimonies, like it was all about like foreign APIs. Like the buzzword is foreign API. And I want to throw out there, like branded medications use foreign APIs and foreign manufacturing. Only recently have they started investing in American infrastructure to manufacture at a scope that would fulfill the need.
Yeah, and all of the name brand manufacturing is generally like the active ingredient is done overseas.
Can we just? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Excuse me. May I interject? Can we break down foreign API for our audience that doesn't know?
Yeah. So the API is the active ingredient. So that's like the chemical that becomes the actual medication. So like this is super high level, not medical advice, obviously, but like you take the active ingredient or chemical that is the actual medication, and then you will say like put it in a solution that will put it at a standardized, concentration that is then also going to be stable so that you can inject it in yourself.
Yeah.
So
I think of KPI versus API because of my day job. So that's why I was like, let me get a reminder here.
API is just the active ingredient.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, for example, like if you want to make a latte, you have the espresso shot and then you have the milk, right? And so if you're making like tirzepatide, you have the active ingredient. And you might also have, the liquid that will help make it stable and at the right concentration so you can inject it.
Oh,
right.
Good one. You should make
That's great. Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah. But right now, like pharma is investing a lot in US manufacturing because of the negotiations with Trump for it. One of the larger manufacturing facilities that actually finishes Wegovy is in Indiana. It's Catalent. And that plant has had a series of safety issues. It has gotten multiple 483 letters from the FDA basically saying what you're doing is unacceptable. Novo Nordisk, when they launched their oral Wegovy pill, actually at the same time did a recall of a lot of Wegovy pens because there was literally cat hair in the pens. There was hair in the liquid, right? There was hair in the liquid pens, right? So, I mean, we can talk about how everything should be safer, and it should, right? But there are issues on name brand level that don't usually get as much press as they should, right? And I can share with you guys to put in the show notes the Wegovy lots that were recalled for anybody who's watching who wants to make sure that they don't have one of those lots.
I'm concerned a little bit about like, and I just did a little bit about, because this is something that just came out too in the news, right? Is this wegovy pill? So wegovy pill, just everybody does know, and it sounds like it's this like great thing. Wegovy, the pill that came out, it's Rybelsus. So Rybelsus is the pill that came out that's semaglutide for type 2 diabetes. There's a lot of different ways like taking it. It's a daily thing, but it was not as effective with weight loss because it was lower doses as compared to the injectors. So just know like it is the same. It has been tested. There's a lot of data on it. But I think that my issue, and I want to know what you guys think with this because we just brought up the pill, right? Is that I feel like the pill coming in, while it opens up access and people can start the pill for like $150. My concern is what's going to happen with insurance. I feel like insurance is going to make us all start on the pill because it's cheaper, or they're going to add that in as an additional step therapy so that people have to do that because it's like less expensive and it also like takes a longer amount of time. There's probably more side effects. My guess is there's more side effects taking the pill because you have to take it a certain kind of way, like with food or without food. I can't even remember the specific things, but I feel like that could possibly like get in the way of access. And I wanted to know from my access queens, like, what are you thinking about that?
I mean, it depends on the person, right? Like the Wegovy pill is the right medication for some people. Generally speaking, it has a pretty high side effect profile. And so my perspective is that the way that they formatted the clinical trial was that they were giving people such high doses of Wegovy. Yes, because your digestive tract will break it down, but they wanted to get the actual FDA approval to that 20% weight loss. So that if people are comparing options and all they look at is the percentage weight loss, they think the Wegovy pill looks good, right? But the side effect profile is not great. A lot of people may not be able to tolerate it. And generally speaking, I feel like unless there's a medical reason and people really, 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 really hate needles, they should probably try injected, right? Like if it's all the same to you, I strongly prefer injected. I've tried both injected medications. And adherence to the Wegovy pill is tricky because you have to take it first thing in the morning. You can't eat, you can't really drink anything with it. You can't eat for a while after you have it. And if you can maintain that, if you don't need the coffee first thing in the morning, cool. But you'd probably do better on injected for many people.
And I get like for access for the price point, it still will open up for a lot of people. I can't help but wonder like also too, if like when it comes from Medicare, Medicaid, if that's where they'll start people just because it's like the cheapest. So it's not that it's not a good option, right? It just feels like it's a possible additional hurdle to get to the one that may be the best and most effective for people, which concerns me. So it's kind of like catch-22, right? Like I'm glad that it exists, you know? I am concerned about the amount of people that will get on it on Medicare and Medicaid and not have community or education or support access, because I think we all know a lot of like PCPs and stuff, like they don't understand actually what this is, like the weight loss pill. So that concerns me. But just since it came up in the news and it came up with things that we're talking about, I just wanted people to kind of understand that because we haven't talked about it on the show yet.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I hear from people sometimes is that they get on a GLP-1, they're like on it for like maybe 3 months and like, it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like a really common experience that people have. And there's a lot of reasons that could be happening. Namely, you may just need to get to a higher dose before it works. But if you're paying out of pocket and you're paying hundreds of dollars a month, like I can acknowledge it's really hard to be paying hundreds of dollars a month and feel like you aren't getting results and you don't know if you ever will. Right. So I want to acknowledge that because I worry that people will get on the pill, not see results and be like, well, all GLP-1 suck and it doesn't work for me. And it's like, well, maybe you haven't found the right medication for you. Maybe you haven't found the right dose yet. Like there, and I acknowledge that takes time and it works slowly when each dose takes at least a month to go up on. But just because you try the pill and it didn't work for you, or just because you started a GLP-1 and it hasn't worked yet, doesn't mean it's not going to work.
Yeah. And we have people that on our show that some people come when they're doing their investigation and they just sort of like binge watch. And then we have other people that are on the journey, right? So we have like a bunch of different kinds of like, so I just want, especially too, like as this we think about our friends and family. So as access begins to increase from a brand perspective, or even from like more insurance covering and all that, a lot of our listeners just, I think it's good for them to just sort of understand like what that means in terms of trickling up and down for their loved ones. So we wanted to make sure that, of course, we covered that today. Okay, I'm going to be quiet now. I just want to go back to your news correspondence.
Yes. Should we go to some lawsuits?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about really briefly, and you can interject in, Maria, the Strive lawsuit. Yeah. So Strive is a large compounding pharmacy. They have several locations in the United States. They're currently being sued by Eli Lilly, but that's another lawsuit. And they brought an antitrust lawsuit against both Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, which is super interesting. Do you want to add anything, Maria?
It's good tea. It's good tea. It's a good lawsuit. There's only 2 antitrust lawsuits out right now against Novo and Lilly, and Strive is the bigger one of the 2. So that's the one we're covering.
Yeah. And what does antitrust mean?
Basically monopolistic behavior. So some of the claims they have in the lawsuit, I'm sure Maria will chime in with some. They were trying to get telehealths, like many of the big ones you heard, like Hims, Ro, et cetera, into exclusive contracts with them. Meaning, if you want to carry or advertise that you have like the Novo, Wegovy pill, whatever is going on, you cannot prescribe compounded, right? Which is then restricting how doctors can practice medicine. And even if compounded is in the best interest of the patient, that doctor maybe can't prescribe it because of the contract with the pharma company and the telehealth. Another thing that they did, it was framed as disparagement, where if you read a lot of news, you might see stuff saying compound is illegal. Or if you look at kind of like the way that Big Pharma talks about compounded medication, they will consistently call it illegal in various ways, and they'll group compounded in gray and just like accuse it of everything. That disparagement was actually disinformation, because compounding was not illegal. A lot, like some people argue, well, mass compounding as it's going on shouldn't be happening. Let me tell you, I've talked to lawyers. The FDA is enforcing mass compounding constantly, but it has not enforced it in the GLP-1 space as far as I know. Right. So the FDA is fine with how GLP-1s are currently being compounded. Like they will nitpick advertising for certain people, sure. But by and large, they understand what's happening in the GLP-1 space and they're fine with it. That's why they came out with the green list of suppliers for active ingredients and all of those other things. They're trying to support.
Our people may not know about that. Will you touch on that real quick? What do you mean by green list?
Yeah. So the FDA put together a green list for API or active ingredient manufacturers for compounding pharmacies to use. So where they source the active ingredient with, there's a green list of manufacturers that the FDA says they are doing compounded, they're doing GLP-1 or GLP-1 in a safe way. And we want you to use these as a source. And so compounding pharmacies, by and large, do use manufacturers from the green list. Now,
and if you're not on that green list, you can't get in anymore. The import channels will not allow compounds, active ingredients from non-green list sources into the United States anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. The other
great. I think gray people are getting around.
People get real creative.
That's different. Yeah.
Real creative and make it look like they're ordering coffee or whatever. Right. We don't know.
Yeah.
But people get creative.
Channel. Coming in, and knowing who it's from and all of that. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
The other thing that Strive is saying in the lawsuit, they're claiming that both Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, at one point, they sent a bunch of cease and desists to doctors, specifically saying, stop prescribing compounded GLP-1s. It's illegal, which again is disinformation and disparagement, according to the lawsuit. And what that's done is it created a situation where a lot of doctors then refuse to prescribe compounded medication. I've spoken to a lot of prescribers who've told me after they got the cease and desist, they stopped. And it also created a situation where doctors were anti-compounding to their patients. So I've spoken to a lot of patients where doctors, like maybe their PCP, maybe their OBGYN, told them, if you're on compounded medication, I will no longer see you as a patient. And that sucks because if you are on a GLP-1, you need to tell your doctor you're on it. There's a lot of potential complications. It's serious medication and they need your full medical history. But these cease and desist letters and I guess all the PR and marketing around calling compounding illegal has created a situation that is less safe for patients.
And I think it's important to interject here of why are these doctors so manipulated by this one claim, right? Well, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly they hold over 95% of the market share of GLP-1s. So if you can't use compounded, you literally can't go anywhere else. So they want to keep these relationships open, right? That's why this is such a big manipulation.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that Maria and I have spoken about is imagine that you're a doctor, you went through all this school, maybe you have maybe you have school debt and you're an ambitious doctor who wants to work in the obesity medicine space. What does that mean? It means you're going to try to maybe become on the board of the Obesity Society or the OMA, Obesity Medical, And so if you are ambitious and you want to be a prestigious obesity medicine doctor, those organizations are all funded by pharma. So they are de facto anti-compounding. Like I spoke to Strive, and maybe they don't want me to say this publicly, I don't know. I spoke to Strive and I was like, hey, why don't you sponsor Obesity Week, which is the Obesity Society week conference once a year? And they said, we asked to. They said they wouldn't work with us because they couldn't, because of their agreements with Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, right? And also they're anti-compounding. So
I wonder how that would affect like the OAC, or they came out. That was a big thing when they came out and kind of delicately danced. We are okay with compound, like,
I don't think they are, because the OAC is actually supporting some of this legislation actively.
Okay, no dance.
So the Obesity Action Coalition, they get at least 25% of their funding from pharma.
Yep.
And they do a lot of great things. They do a lot to reduce obesity stigma. They've been advocating for TROA, which is Medicare coverage of these medications. I 100% support those initiatives, but they are anti-compounding. I don't think there's anything compounding can do to make them happy, because they get a lot of funding from pharma.
Yeah. And if you want to fact check that, there's a 1-page summary of the Federal Safe Drugs Act, and Obesity Action Coalition is named on it as a supporter, along with American Diabetes Association and the Partnership for Safe Medicine. So like, that is not like a hearsay kind of thing. Like they're named on there.
Yeah. No.
We still love them, but we just don't like that they don't like compound. Okay.
Yeah, I love so much about what they stand for. I love so much of their work.
Yes.
But I wish they...
I'm a member,
I wish they weren't so biased against compounds. So another thing... Yeah.
Oh, hold on one second. I want to throw in like a little thing, like the Obesity Society. Like I was there this year at their conference. It's humongous. It is the place to be for metabolic and obesity medicine and science. And I experienced some of this too. I was walking around talking about research with other people. Like that's a space like I really like to live in, is the research area. And no data on compounding was allowed to be presented there, which is wild, because I'm like talking to these other telehealths. Like I would love to hear what your patients experience and whatever. And it's like, well, we can only tell you what they experience on branded. Oh,
that's really unfortunate. Can I say that on here? Like, just really unfortunate that that's not, because it's part of the picture.
On this show, you can see everything.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I will say what's really exciting. So Obesity Society happened a few months ago. So they're all publishing the papers that they presented there. They're publishing the full paper. They're publishing the compounded and the branded data. And not in the journal Obesity, because that's ran by the Obesity Society, but they're publishing in other places. We're starting to see the research come around of like what patients on compounded medications from telehealth are experiencing and the results they're getting. And it's really positive. It really is.
Yeah. Well, it's such a catch-22, because a lot of the criticism of compounding is, well, it's not FDA approved, right? We don't have as much data on how safe or not safe it is. And then you see a lot of these companies are actually doing the research and making that data and creating that scientific background, and the Obesity Society will not let them present that data at their conference, right? Like, how can we have the data if the conference of like the obesity medicine conferences will not let them present the data on compounding? It's like they just they want to like close their eyes and pretend compounding doesn't exist and will never be safe, because they won't look at any data related to it.
But then how do you get like a full spectrum? Like, how do we get the full picture if they're, I'm going to say something controversial, because
That's okay.
I'm like generally a science-based person, but this is an area where the science societies that are focused on obesity medicine are biased, right? And you think about it, if you do a bunch of obesity medicine research, you want the approval of the two biggest players, which is Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, to potentially fund or acquire research that you do, right? That's really what's happening.
And it's all parts of the loop as well. Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's not really necessary, like, for what I was going to say. It sounds like, they really got them by the, what's.
Yeah.
It's complicated. And that's what I keep going back to. It's super complicated how this whole ecosystem is influenced in different ways. It's not just like one area. It's like the full cycle has influence. And that's what makes this like such a big topic. Antitrust lawsuits are humongous. Like, this is about a system. It's about how the market is structured in a way that is not fair. So that's what's like really important about this lawsuit, versus you've probably heard about the other lawsuits over patent infringement and false advertising and all that. There's a bunch of those.
They may not have.
Make sure we go over that.
Yeah. So Really quickly, let me summarize up a little bit more of the Strive lawsuit. The other thing that's claimed in the Strive antitrust lawsuit against both Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk is that there's social media manipulation. And every social media content creator in this space will be like, it's weird, I can't talk about stuff, right? The lawsuit specifically talks about a basically 2-day period where a bunch of Facebook groups were shut down, and there was payment processor manipulation, where telehealths who did compounded medication and compounding pharmacies suddenly got dropped by payment processors, right? And so that's like one way that it felt like potentially Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, as the lawsuit claims, were swinging their big D's around, right? And basically making it so that,
sorry, Dad.
So that doctors cannot prescribe what might be best for the patients, which might be a compounded medication.
The social media stuff is literally crazy. And I know we've all experienced it. I work with a telehealth. We lost our Facebook group on that day. I went back and referenced it. I was like, oh my God, we lost it on that day. I lost my personal one on that day. It's crazy when you see, and they've not been restored. They're just gone, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've had some people, I think, that have been restored. Our friend Dave, he lost his, he lost his TikTok, which was a big one. Somehow he got it back. I still don't know the tea on that.
He just lost his Facebook group too.
Who did?
Yeah, Dave lost his Facebook group. I lost my personal TikTok, my tirzepatide tales TikTok. I lost that literally the second I hit 10,000. I hit 10,000, banned. It was bad. At Obesity Week, actually, which is further depth to conspiracy theories.
There was a bunch of stuff going on Obesity Week. I remember that right before the price and all that change came down. That all came down while we were there, right? That's something to think about. It was timed.
I was
all these hands are orchestrated.
I was in the Eli Lilly luncheon when Trump was in the room with the Novo Nordisk passing out and all that. I was in the Eli Lilly luncheon where they're like, "This is the best day ever," and I'm like, "Oh God, what's happening?" It was nuts.
Funny story, real quick, because squirrel. So we're filming with the documentary crew right now. Myself, Mike on a Mission, Zach, Amanda from GLP-1, several people. And we're filming with them, and they were at Obesity Week. And so they wanted to film Amanda and Mike and Zach when they saw the news from Trump. And when he came out and he said it, and then Mike was just because it's I don't think that they realize they say these things, they made these executive orders, but at the end of the day, we need this stuff codified. And it's because of the things we're talking about here. We need to make sure that it needs to be there. It has to be there. It needs to be this price. All the care needs to be in place so that people can't continue to manipulate the system, which is exactly what's happening. Right.
Well, just look at what TikTok has changed for all you who are on social media and don't have other healthier hobbies. There's a lot of changing how GLP-1s are talked about on TikTok right now because accounts are being lost. They're being censored. They're being throttled. We have a whole creator group that we try to figure out what's the current throttle and what's the current violation because it's constantly changing what we can and can't talk about. It's wild.
Oh yeah. Today on my live this morning, I said, make sure you're eating enough protein. And I got disordered eating violation. Really?
Yeah.
Really? Of all things, if I had said eat a lot of vegetables, would I have not gotten it then? Can I not say the word eat? It's ridiculous. Let me know. I need to be in that group. It's crazy.
Sorry, I think you are in that group, aren't you?
Am I? I don't know.
Yes, that's huge.
Is it in Discord?
No, it's on TikTok.
Yeah,
on TikTok.
Maybe it might be on one of my accounts. I have so many because I'm preparing for the inevitable, right?
Same.
Yeah.
We all have backup accounts.
Just prepared.
Yeah.
For extinction level event.
Okay.
All GLP-1 creators.
Back on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Maria, do you want to talk about some of the other racketeering cases?
So there are, I'll just high level, there's a lot of other lawsuits out in the space right now.
Wait, define racketeering.
Yes. Racketeering. So you have antitrust and racketeering. They're both similar in the tone that this is it's a big structure. Think of racketeering like the mafia. Old school racketeering was the mafia was controlling what things were coming in, who was buying them, who was selling them, the cops looking the other way. All of that is racketeering. It is about a pattern of misconduct, repeatedly over time. Whereas antitrust is more of like a screenshot of the system being broken. So right now, racketeering is the hot topic of the GLP-1 lawsuit space. Racketeering has been going off about insulin pricing for a long time. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of racketeering lawsuits for insulin pricing. That's because traditionally, insulin pricing has been very much manipulated in the market. They have a product that works, the price drops down, but then they come out with a newer product at a higher price and they stop covering the older one. So they force people up a step. And then it goes again and they force people up a step. I've got a wonderful array of graphics we can link into the show notes about insulin pricing versus like education cost, healthcare cost, gas, all of it's in there. And insulin shoots to the top like this and everything's basically flat down here over the last 50 years. And even more like insulin was brought in to be like a public entity. Like the person who created insulin said, this is for everyone. This is for the world. Like this isn't for
literally
profit,
literally gave away the patent because people with diabetes need insulin to stay alive and to stay healthy.
Literally cannot live without it. Like it is absolutely disgusting. You know, we did have on, what was it called? Mac, right? iMac, who basically exposes all of this patent bullshittery. Yeah. So friends, if you haven't seen that episode, go back and watch it. Sorry, Dad. I know it's a lot of cussing on a Sunday. But it was like a lot of like things that they do with the patents basically to take advantage of these things. So it's like, make sure we go back and check that episode out because it's so important. And we don't want that with this because this is life-changing and life-saving. Like it really is. Like people don't have to be on it to survive like the way that people with insulin do, but it is incredibly important and at very, very close levels because of how bad these things go, right? When you have obesity for a long time. So, okay. Done with that. Tell us about racketeering. So many squirrels.
So many. That's how I think we all feel right now in the news space. Because normally I cover like few things a week, like pretty in depth. Right now, I was telling Sabina, I was like, we got to divide and conquer at this point because I can't read everything. These racketeering lawsuits are all 400 plus pages, and we're getting like 50 new ones a day at this point. So I cannot read them all, actually. But like when you start breaking them down, you say like, why are there so many racketeering cases? Where are they coming from? Well, traditionally with racketeering cases, there is a flood. Like they all come in from all over the place, like from townships, from small businesses, like all over the place. They flood in and they all have their own, perspective to it, but they're hugely data heavy. That's why I said I have some great graphics because they're just huge data. They're pulling data. And then it's kind of like throwing a handful of darts and hoping one sticks. The second one of these cases gets any traction, every single other case will amend to follow that. Many racketeering cases get thrown out in the very beginning. They'll do something called a motion to dismiss. Probably in the next few weeks, we'll start seeing a bunch of those. So that's where the defendant says, hey, you don't have grounds to sue me and I want to get the hell out of here. Here's all the reasons why. And then the other person will be like, no, we're here for this reason. And then the judge decides whether it moves on from there or whether it's done. Many of them will fall out at that point, and we'll see which ones go on. And the ones that do go on, similarly to how we talked about the policy, when something works or gets any traction, that serves as a reference point, a place to grab. If you're rock climbing and that rock sticks, like you're going to grab it and you're going to try to reach up some more and you're going to wait until you can grab something else to pull yourself up. Like that's the strategy with these. Especially with racketeering. It's crazy. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, insulin pricing racketeering, it's crazy. It's all about controlling rebates and like changing products. You talk about the Semaglutide pill coming on the market, kind of similar pattern to that of like, we have Rybelsus, but it's, cheaper or whatever. Now we have the Wegovy pill. So it's going to go here and, we'll keep kind of stringing you along.
Fascinating.
It's wild.
It's so interesting. Like I never thought for a second that when they were like suing, like when Eli Lilly came in to sue like compound pharmacies and telehealth, so we were going to see all these countersuits, like never saw that coming. Like never saw it coming. Part of me I'm just curious. Y'all tell me this real quick. Like part of me is like, it's got to cost a lot of money, right? To do these cases with these attorneys and like, and fighting with them. And we know like Eli Lilly, right? They got, and Nova, like they have tons, right? Trillions, right? We've already discussed, right? Of dollars to be able to do this. But like when I see the compound pharmacy people doing it, and like, I know they make money too, but I'm like, damn, they must be hand over fist. And they're like, we ain't giving this up because like, I mean, if not, like, then why continue to like fight at this level with how much money that it costs? But they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't. And that's what I said about the price of these medicines too. Like they will keep it as high as they can every second they can because they are making money every second. You know what I mean? Like that's the demand, right, for this market. Like every time someone's refilling or every time someone new is coming in. So it's like everybody will fight as long as possible, which the fact blows my mind that we've actually seen so much movement in 3 years, right, with the price of these things. And I think a lot of it is because of us and all of our fussing on the news.
Yeah. Well, I do think you can get name brand cheaper because of compounding, right? Because compounding has put pressure on
I do think that it sort of set the price, right? Like it sort of set the market price because when people couldn't get brand and they were like, yeah, like I'll pay $300 to $500. Well, then they knew, right? The market set the price. People will pay $300 to $500 or a little bit more to be able to get brand and it being safer and whatever, right? So I do think that you're right. I think that's exactly the case.
Yeah. And I do think a lot of tactics with these lawsuits for the compounding pharmacies and the telehealth are like publicity stunts as well. Sabina was in a courtroom of a crazy lawsuit where Eli Lilly kind of showed up less than ready to go. They just needed to say that they were like vilifying these places too, I think a little bit. And again, looking for places where they can grab holds, right? Like,
Yeah. It's really interesting because a lot of the lawsuits of telehealth companies where it's like, for example, Eli Lilly suing a telehealth or Novo Nordisk suing a telehealth. A lot of times those cases are not going through. Why? Because they don't meet a standard set where it's really a question of not whether or not the telehealth did anything wrong, but whether or not a private entity like Eli Lilly can sue on behalf of basically the FDA, or if the FDA should be enforcing their own rules. Right. So that a lot of times the cases will get dismissed and it's about that. It's not actually about what the telehealth did or anything like that. It's like, was there real tangible damages that were spelled out in a clear way? And can a private entity actually be suing another entity on behalf of what the FDA's rules are effectively? Or should it be at the discretion of the FDA?
Who's the enforcer, you know?
Yeah. And it sounds like because they don't know, they've just sort of been like, no, it's like, is that what, when they dismiss, if they've been like, this isn't like, I don't want to say jurisdiction. Like,
yeah. A lot of times when they dismiss, they're like, this is up to the FDA or the laws need to change and you can't actually enforce it. Like Eli Lilly can't enforce FDA rules. Right. So, you know, Eli Lilly, a private company, might see another company doing something and being like, that's not cool. But unless they are showing that they're tangibly a party that's tangibly harmed by their actions, then they're just trying to enforce something that maybe the FDA, for example, should be enforcing or should not be enforcing, or it's their discretion. And can that private entity do that? So far, very high level, obviously not getting the details. That hasn't stuck very hard yet.
Yeah. What next?
I don't know. There's so much.
Yeah, we've been making good time. So the last thing I'll say is if you care about this stuff, if you want to be engaged in the news, of course, you can follow Maria, Tirzepatide Tales, me, I'm Lollipop, LAWLIPOP on most socials. But you can also get involved, particularly if you live in Indiana or Florida and you want compounding to stick around, even if you don't use a compounded GLP-1, especially the Indiana one. It's like basically hurting all everything. So if you have a kid who might need to swallow a pill and you need to be able to get that compounded, if you need special creams for your skincare, there's a million reasons that you could be compounded. Like for me, like, yes, I take compounded GLP-1s, but I have like 5 other prescriptions that are compounded. It is critical infrastructure. You can call and contact your representatives. It is Indiana Bill SB 282, Florida State Bill SB 860 and HB 877. And the federal bill, if you want to get it involved, there's also a change.org petition on it. It's House Resolution HR 6509.
Oh, I'll throw out there too. Like, I am new to the policy advocacy world, like being in these places where things are happening. If you have questions about what to do, how to say things, when things are happening, how the like whole thing works, like feel free to reach out. Like we can talk you through it. I'll probably be at the next Indiana hearing. So all the Hoosiers, they said Hoosiers so much in the courtroom.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Not a Hoosier, so it was disorienting, but it's awesome. If you're a Hoosier who wants to go, like, please let me know. I can definitely help you with how testimonies work, what you're allowed to do, where to be, all that. Because it is a little scary. I will say I was scared. I was really scared the first time. All these like big guys with suits and they're like really serious and they're really mad. It was intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think too, like I will say, as someone who's gone to some of these, like too, I think that there is something about like, because when we went to the Senate hearing, God, it's been a long time ago now. We went to that, and I was like, John, what are we gonna do? Like hold signs? Because this was when the CEO at the time of Novo Nordisk was being grilled by the Senate Help Committee, right, about like these cost and price of these medications. And John was like, no, we're gonna wear T-shirts. And I was like, what are they gonna say? And he was gonna say, make GLP-1s affordable. And I was like, okay. And that's what we did. So there is a way to like raise your voice without, like if you don't want to be on social, like you can go and just have something on there, right? Like this isn't okay with me, right? Or you can, like follow us, comment, like anytime you're engaging with any of this content or sharing it with others, also important. Like contacting your representatives are also really important. But I think like what's important here too, like, and I'm going to try to say this in the nicest way I can. Just because you have access right now, and you have the advantage of having your insurance pay for it, don't get comfortable. They pull access
Absolutely
all the time. Insurance companies change all the time. And if and when that does happen, compounded medications from one of these types of pharmacies, right, is essential. And it will happen again and again and again. And when it does happen to you, you will wish that this was an option. Or if your loved one can't get access and can't afford brand, you'll wish this was an option. And so our voices, they are changing things. I promise you, I have never seen anything move like this has moved with Big Pharma with pricing in 3 years. It's a massive shift. So, and a lot of that is because of the shortage and all that, but a lot of that is because of our voices and the power of that. And that's why, a lot of us also go and speak with lawmakers. We go on the Hill and that kind of thing too. But you don't necessarily have to be at that level, but there's things you could do. And if you do want to do something that is positive too, you can create an account on social and share your stories, and it doesn't have to be that you're this big creator trying to do this thing. It's just raising your voice. So there's lots of ways to do that. We're going to put all the links to this stuff in the notes. Is there anything that we missed, guys?
I just want to add that at the state level, a lot of state representatives, they don't have a ton of engagement from their constituents, right? Like most people are not paying attention to the laws. So if you are in one of the states, maybe not today, but in the future that has legislation that's threatening compounding, and you actually either go in person, sometimes you can drop a digital card when it's at a committee hearing. Sometimes you can go in person and testify, or if you email or call your state representatives, or sometimes they often have in your district near your house will have an office. If you can stop by their office in person and just let them know your story. Patient stories are the most powerful thing that they can hear. And when they don't have people engaged on, 50 laws that get passed and they see even just 5 or 10 people engaged on this, it makes a massive difference.
Yes.
People engaged.
So just I went to the Indiana Health Provider Committee for the Senate bill last week. We saw 6 bills, 6. And we were the 5th bill to go, the compounding bill. The first 4 bills had no one testify, no one talk. And they were about like Medicare pricing and downgrade coding. Like they were big bills. I was like, whoa, I got to look this up. This is crazy. No one testified. They passed through and now they go to a full Senate vote and that's it. And nobody said a single word for or against them. And that hurt my little soul because I'm like, how many things have happened that I don't know? Because
a lot.
People don't know that it's coming through. They don't show up. They don't hear whatever. And that's it. That's like kind of like, even if one person had showed for any of those, it would have been a great thing, and memorable.
Yeah. Because I think in general, there are so many different things that people are trying to get across for good or for worse, right? And if there's no one saying anything, then it's a lot easier to push across. But if you've got somebody there that's being like, this isn't okay, it is powerful. Like it really is. People do. I mean, you even heard, right? One of the person that was like, this pill is kind of bad. Maybe we should reconsider. Now I'm obviously oversimplifying, but right. Like it does matter, and it does matter a lot. And I think that it's easy. It's especially even on social, like it's easy to swipe past us, right? When we're not there in person. But like, that's something that my husband was always saying. He's like, you've got to be in the room where they're making these choices, and you don't have to just be an advocate. You can just be a person that cares. When I met Sabina in person for the first time, we were having lunch together at this table, and she was like, I actually think that this is such a big problem that we can actually change for the first time ever the healthcare system as a whole, because of the amount of people
right here.
Right. The amount of people that are sick and the amount of people that need these medicines, and like all these access issues and trust issues and all these things we're defining here. So this is, you guys know this podcast is about education, but it's also about advocacy, and you can do this. You can, and we want you to. We need these voices. It's so important. And like just it sways. It really does. So don't ever think that. And I do think that when we have obesity, many of us in this society have been made to feel very shamed and blamed. And ultimately you can see on this show and all of the other shows people have, right, that these stories are so incredibly moving, and they can move mountains. And so I want you to feel empowered to do so, because we need you, or else this is all just going to continue. And all these people that we love, right? Because I've also learned like this is ingrained at this point, right? Like like my son, I had obesity when I had him. He was swimming around in insulin, right? Like his chances of getting this, and then his kids and all of that are high. It's the truth. Like I'm just a fact. I'm just saying. We're on the
swimming around in insulin.
Swimming around in insulin, like he was, but so that passes on, right? These are all reasons. It's just going to get worse, and this is a way for us to try to like thwart that. So let's all get together and fight. I believe in you. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming on the show. I hope you'll come back as we learn more and get updates and all of that. And of course, we're going to ask you guys all to like, subscribe, share, review, no matter where you're listening or watching. We love you. And thank you for supporting me.
5-star reviews.
5-star reviews. Real quick, 5-star reviews. Oh, and then also GLP-1 so go check that out.
Yes, go check GLP-1 winner out, really.
Seriously, it'll help. Okay. All right. Good show, friends. All right. Follow everybody. Do all the things.
Call your representatives.
Yes. And we will see you next week. Hasta la pasta.
Swim.
Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast, because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource, because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need. Today's episode is brought to you by Ro, a telehealth platform that's changing the game of GLP-1 access. What sets Ro apart? Ro understands the challenges of navigating insurance hurdles and the skyrocketing prices of GLP-1 medications. That's why they specialize in getting insurance approvals for GLP-1s. And if insurance is a barrier, they go a step further by prescribing brand name zepbound vials for prices close to those of compound GLP-1s. With Ro, you're not just getting a prescription, you're getting a partner in your journey that's helping you access affordable treatment and guiding you every step of the way. Whether it's insurance approvals or cost-effective alternatives, Ro is here to make sure that you get the medication you need. Visit ro.co/plussides with a Z today to see how they can help you take control of your weight management journey with affordable, accessible care. That's ro.co/plussides with a Z, making healthcare work for you. Check out the link in our show notes for more details. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.